I'm JJ Barnes, and this is Jonathan McKinney,
Hello.
and that's Molly.
Yes, it is.
You're watching another episode of Writing Advice with JJ and Jonathan. Today, we are going to be talking about, and I'm trying to think of a way to word this properly, sensitivity readers. And do you have the right and the ability to write characters that are in a minority community when you are not a minority? So, for instance, as straight white people,
Sure.
should we be writing about characters who are disabled, people of colour, homosexual, bisexual, any of the other sexuals? Should we write characters that are parts of those communities? And if we do write characters that are parts of those communities, should we hire sensitivity readers who are specifically readers who are in minority communities, who read people's work to make sure that those minorities are not represented by stereotypes and damaging imagery, or completely inaccurately, because we cannot experience, for instance, being blind, being deaf, being gay. So are we relying on things that are our own impression of that life, and then portraying it badly, and the sensitivity readers will check that out?
Okay.
So that's a really big way of describing this subject, but I hope that makes sense.
Right.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Because I've got fairly strong opinions on the first part of whether we should write characters. For instance, I feel if I could never write characters from communities that I am not personally in, I would forever be stuck writing sort of working to middle class white women with weird blood disorders.
Right.
And that would be it. That would be all I could write. So no, I don't think we should be prevented. Also, I think we have a platform, self-created through our own, we've not just been handed a platform, we have worked for a platform, but we have a platform, and we are privileged in the sense that we are the kind of straight white people that will often find it easier to attain that platform.
Okay.
But we should use that platform to represent other people.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be like, you know what, because I'm not gay or black or blind, I will therefore never put those people in my stories, because they exist. They're there. They're in the world. I'm writing about people in the world. I want to write about a variety of people. I'm not going to just be... I feel it would be more discriminatory to pretend that people who aren't like me don't exist than not to. Like, for instance, in Hollowhood, the film that we are making...
Yeah.
The lead characters, the main characters, are a lesbian couple, or ex-couple.
Sure.
I don't think that when lesbian couples are underrepresented in fiction, that we would be doing a service to anyone to represent them, to not represent them ourselves as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the issue of sensitivity readers is another one that I'll talk about. But in terms of, yes, we should, absolutely, to me, we have a duty as storytellers to tell stories about the wonderful, diverse scope of humanity. And that includes everybody.
Okay, so I think this is a conversation that is all around us all the time.
I agree.
And I think predominantly it's because for the last 100 years or so, the big talent in the world, in terms of what we're all trying to do, write stories, have packed up their bags and moved to Hollywood. And the first people who did that maybe were white men who were there for a start.
Yeah.
And then a kind of inherited privilege developed, so that white men, straight white men, were handing the power of the influential storyteller to the next generation of straight white men again and again and again and again. And now we've had sort of 20 to 30 years of that being slowly, I think it's fair to say, dismantled.
Yeah, I agree.
So
we are getting now more films that are written and starring and centering characters who aren't like Gene Kelly.
Right.
Or Bruce Willis or whoever.
As far as I'm aware, because I'm not particularly clued about statistics in Hollywood right now, but as far as I'm aware, the most common director is still a straight white man.
Yeah.
Right? And whether that is proportionally representative of people in that area of the world, especially now that anybody can go there, the idea that that's proportionally representative is unlikely.
I agree.
Probably impossible.
And not just the creators, but the characters.
Well, yeah, but of course, like, then we all, like, everybody telling their stories, unless we've kind of thought about this, are likely to reflect ourselves at first, right?
Exactly.
So then, now, this conversation has, I think, maybe outside of Hollywood, maybe on social media around the world, caught fire.
I agree.
Now I think it is possible for you, who is watching this, who are possibly a straight white man, but very possibly not, to now worry that you are offending everybody all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you get lost in the idea of are you offending people, you won't create.
Yeah, and if you are a working straight white male person, if you're not particularly wealthy, haven't necessarily been rewarded with this incredible privilege that other white men have had, and you're still kind of by association blamed for it, you might feel like I'm going to offend everybody just by having a go at doing writing in the first place.
However, I do think equally so, which is why I was going on to sensitivity readers.
Right.
Whilst I agree, I don't think that we should inhibit creativity in people and reduce the number of people who aren't straight white people on TV when we are straight white people creating it.
Okay.
I do think we do have to respect and understand that we could offend, because we aren't trying to tell stereotypes, because humans aren't stereotypes.
Okay.
Humans are diverse people regardless of what stereotype they might be crowbarred into.
Right.
And this has happened in terms of women on screen less and less. We have got further, I think, than a lot of people. But women on screen used to be the stereotypical girly woman, you know, the Grace Kelly, the beautiful, and that was all women were. Again, so that was how we were only ever seen.
If there was a lot of storytelling power, you know, being kept in the hands of straight white men, and they were making things they wanted to see, then they made fantasies about you.
Exactly. Maybe the men in the past should have had sensitivity readers or viewers who were women who they listened to, and then it would have been further forward. So I think there is something to say about the idea that if you are writing characters, if people in that community say to you, this is wrong, this is inaccurate, this is not how our lives are, you should listen.
I think ultimately, right, my advice, and it's the same advice I would give to anybody who gives about my advice about anything, which is don't be a dickhead. If you have friends who will be sensitivity readers, or if you can afford to pay someone to do it, then do it. Absolutely do it. But for me, yes, you might offend people by mistake. You can take the risk and tell stories with the time that you've got on Earth, or you can say, I don't want to offend anybody. I want to be perfect. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm
that
going
is a really
to
fair
stop
point.
talking and creating right now.
And I think what you're saying about don't be a dickhead is really relevant, because when you're writing characters, if you write, and we talked about this in the writing female characters video, right?
Yeah, it's
Don't
just the same
think
principle.
about the character you're writing, whether it's a different sex, different race, different religion, different sexuality, etc. to you. Don't think about them as that is who they are. That is one aspect of their lives.
You have to do research about the people that you're writing with.
It's difficult because you don't want to be a bad dickhead.
And if you don't want to be a bad dickhead, and if you are sensitive, that will, to those who are reading in good faith, right? And that isn't everybody, but to those that are, because no, I'm sorry, but there are people in the world who aren't actually offended, who don't belong to a community that should be offended, but who will write articles saying we need to talk about your work because of something offensive that you've done. It might even be just that you've got flawed characters.
Yeah.
You know, that is something that we need to talk about in 2019 as far as the internet is concerned, right? We really need to talk about Ross Geller. We don't.
No, you can just accept that he's a flawed character and he's a bit of a bad dickhead. But
do you know what I mean?
I agree. I think
because there's money to be made, not probably from like criticizing your work, but probably criticizing the work of your heroes. There's money to be made because it's controversial, and you can find out why that person who was previously lauded is actually cancelled, right? And
I agree. And I as you say,
we can all stop telling stories.
Stop telling stories, and stop telling stories about people who don't exactly look like you.
But they're fictional characters anyway.
They're fictional anyway, and as you say, I don't want to just write me.
No,
I want to write...
I don't want to read your diary, right?
Yeah, that's it. I don't want to write my diary. I
don't
want to write
go
fiction.
to the movies and watch, Spielberg's diary, just read to me by Steven Spielberg, because he's terrified that if he writes an English character and that English character likes tea, I'm going to be offended because I don't like tea.
Yeah, I agree. And I do agree, and I feel that I very much feel like I have a responsibility to use my writing to represent everybody.
Like,
that's not true, not everybody. I can't, because, I can only tell one story at a time.
And jokes are another matter, because if you're telling jokes about things that other people might consider crossing a line...
You've got to be able... I agree. Because I do think that if we can't tell jokes and we can't, represent people who don't look exactly like us, and we can't tell stories in case somebody feels that they are being represented by a character, even if it's someone you've never met and have no interaction with, be like, well, I'm not writing you, I'm writing them. Like,
and
you can't stop creating in case...
In some parts of the world, something might be very offensive, and so the people that live there understand this and out of respect don't do that thing. In another part of the world, it's not, and so somebody might do it without meaning to be a dickhead, and then if that person goes to that place, they can be offensive by mistake.
But then I do think we have a job to do to listen, and...
I agree. I think you should listen. I think you should learn as much as you can so that you can be the least dickhead person you can be.
Exactly.
But... Again.
But also, being offended doesn't make you right, and people think it does. Thank you very much for watching our video about sensitivity readers, whether you should write characters that aren't like yourself, whether you should be able to represent characters from other communities, etc. It's a big subject, and I think we could talk at length about it, and we probably have talked at length about it so far.
Yeah. Look, my feeling is, do listen to everybody. Listen to the people who are shouting and screaming at you about this on the internet, because there's a good chance that they are trying to build a personal brand for themselves as sort of morality police, and that's fine. It's totally fine. Listen to them because you'll learn something, but also they are not necessarily trying to help you do what you want to do with your life, which is to write stories. They are trying to build a brand which people flock to so that they can make money off the clicks that come to them. And that's fine, because it's a free country. But
don't assume someone being offended makes you a bad person. And don't stop creating, and don't stop being a diverse creator. Like, I've written characters that are black, Asian, gay, like...
And don't take anything I've said as license to go and attack minority communities.
Oh, Jesus Christ, no.
Because I am not saying that. I'm saying write with respect about minority communities.
100%.
Write with as much information as you possibly can, and forgive yourself and love yourself, because, dear God in heaven, you're going to have enough reasons, people telling you to hate yourself in 2019 and in 2020, because we are all cancelled, friends. I'm done.
It's very prophetic.
I'm done. Prophetic or...
I don't mean prophetic. I mean, I don't know, something else. Thank you very much for watching.
Hopefully not pathetic.
No, I'm trying to think what I mean. Anyway.
Don't be a dickhead.
Don't be a dickhead. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you have any thoughts, which you probably do.
If you're really angry with me for suggesting that human beings should write other human beings, then I'm very sorry.
Yeah, so comment below or find us on social media, because I do think it's a big conversation, and I do think that it's a conversation worth having, especially as you say, because it's very much part of our culture at the minute, and I think creators are being affected by it, and it's something we need to learn how to deal with and decide what to do about, because I don't think anyone should just stop creating in case they offend, but also we do need to be aware of other cultures. So yeah, that would be my thing. Like, talk. Tell us what you think. Tell us your experiences. Like, have you any examples that are really insensitive?
There's lots of examples of insensitive.
Have you got any examples of good? Like, talk to us, because yeah, talk to us, because we always want to understand and be better writers, and a lot of that, being a better writer, especially about people, is listening to people, so that you can write better people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you don't ever interact with humans, you can't write humans. So, yeah, trust me when I say we are not trying to be horribly offensive people, but we are interested in this subject. So, yeah, come and talk to us and tell us what you think, and we'll be back again soon. Bye.
Bye.